We're in a really odd spot right now with where the whole Dogra Labyrinth is. We have the fact that, at least as of right now, a majority of the antagonists are currently down. They aren't able to fight, and it is, for the most part, just what? Dogremag and now this new guy. Dogremag. Dogremag's obviously like he's a boss fight. We don't have to really like work our heads too far around that one. But with the whole Dogra Core things, the big question that I've had, it's not just anything to do with any member of Diabolos fully. It has more to do with the plan, because obviously there has to be some form of pushback. There has to be something that is making it more difficult for the protagonists to destroy the cores. So especially since they're not just going to be going around looking for them, Selena's directly putting them in front of them, like teleporting them to each of the cores, easy to find and easy to destroy. So there has to be, someone, something, and some people to make it more difficult for them to accomplish this. And we have this random treasure hunter right now, and I mentioned before, like if the treasure hunter can somehow compete with Gray, like I feel like he just has to have some form of noteworthy importance. We have to find out like he's part of the best treasure hunter team in the world. They're like the top treasure hunters, and that's why they think they can do this. And it's like, okay, literally the peak of their entire faction or branch or whatever of their abilities and stuff is able to compete with like a not all in Gray. Like I think that's fine because he's not messing with Natsu. It'd be harder to mess with someone like Urza and Laxus, especially now. Otherwise, you'd have to go maybe like for Lucy or Gajiel or something. But where it's still strong, but it's not like where like the bigger people are at right now, like that have the feats. Not talking about like the narrative and where some people could be at, like Jalal or something. But it's like, no, we're just going to have just current feats. But you can kind of tack it up a little bit as like copium, but it's not so much as like Diablos members and Scolion as much as like I feel like they're the only ones really logical for adversaries right now. Because like I said, there could be a whole thing with like the treasure hunters that make them more impressive than we would initially assume, and make them more of a threat for the characters to fight. Other than that, I think the only enemies really are the Diablos members. And there are some that I think would become allied after the battles that they had, like Kyria. I think Kyria should have. I think based on what we've seen with Kyria would logically have a level of respect for Lucy, at least. Not like, oh, we're best friends now, but at least enough to have like, oh yeah, you can fight, you can hold your weight, like I'm gonna at least see you as a fighter kind of thing. And with Haku, obviously Haku having a crush on Wendy, you can easily see a team up there, maybe some form of monster that Dogremag makes they have to get past or something. The other members, like Misaki, I could see Misaki wanting to get revenge. I could see Scolion wanting to fight Gray. And Kieran, I think Kieran would logically want to have a tiebreaker with Laxus. Like, that's something I could see happening. And then Scolion and Madmol, or sorry, not Scolion, Madmol and Gajiel, I think it would just kind of depend on the setup and the context. But I mean, like, you don't really need anything that crazy to get them to fight, because I feel like Gajiel would be very easy to get into a state of mind to combat this guy. Either way, the general setup, I think, is looking pretty good. The general area of where things could go, at least as of right now. But the question, as I've said, like, where exactly is this gonna like leave certain characters? I personally think that the Diablos members will get up soon, because not only is like the possibility of some of them will fight the main cast again, I think a lot of them are going to be needed to fight against Dogremag. And with Natsu and Suzaku, it's very clear that Mishima wants to make them allies, like ally the two guilds. We haven't had any Diablos members be killed by a Fairy Tail member, which I think is important, because if it's, because the difference between the two guilds has entirely been off a misunderstanding. Once they kind of get that out of the way, I think it'd be really awkward if any of them died in the process, because that'd be something that I don't think they'd be able to just kind of brush past versus just some ass beatings and stuff. But like, there's a lot of stuff that I could see happening that I think would make a lot of sense. Scolion, like any of the Dragon Eaters, I will say, like getting back up when people really kind of just like label them as like down forever. They could be done. They could easily be done. I could easily be wrong on it, and they could just be done. But they are Dragon Slayers, so it's like they have a very quick turnaround time for stamina and magic uh, replenishment. On top of that, they have ways of just getting straight quick boosts back up with being able to eat their own attribute. So could happen. And like I said, what's the most logical level of or most logical array of like enemies for them to really go against? The only other thing is what, at least as of right now, that we know of, would be like Dogremag making more of those little golems or whatever, those little minions that he can send at him, but those don't seem that impressive. Besides that, we got like I guess some treasure hunters. But really, like, what are some treasure hunters really gonna do in the grand scheme of things? All I could really see any of the treasure hunters doing is like if you had say like, oh, they could, he's got the speed to dodge some of Gray's attacks. I don't think he'd have any of the real offensive abilities because I would assume that he wouldn't have magic or anything. Maybe some like tools and like one trick moves that are annoying to get around, but I doubt they'd be that much of a danger for Gray, especially someone at his level and someone with as like wide AoE, versatile, and just pretty much unshaped magic that he has, like ice making, and especially stuff with his devil slaying would be probably pretty easy to deal with this guy. But besides that, I easily see Scullion and them getting back up. It's more so like I said, where's the most logical level of or most logical like area of pushback that like it's gonna come from when it comes to characters. I think it makes a lot of sense for the Diabolos members to get back up. We could finish up settling some things because I think after this arc, aside from more kind of personal skirmishes, I don't imagine Fairytale and Diabolos are gonna be fighting much. Maybe we'll have some training stuff, but I don't imagine they're just gonna be brawling all the time. Because at the point of being allies, it's a little different when it becomes to being an allies with another guild versus having allies in your own guild. There's got to be a level of diplomacy with it. Depends on the characters, obviously, that'll be in any of the situations. But I could definitely see it being a little bit more kind of civil between the two sides. So I think for the most part, I think a lot of the fights that aren't going to be like very personal for the characters, something like Laxus and Kieran, like Kieran would want to have another fight, but I don't think it'd be like some to the death thing. I think it'd be more of a personal thing between the two of them. So if we get something more like that, and then like later, but for now, like move towards something with them, something with like seeing what's going on with them, seeing them kind of show up. Scullion is just the one that the easiest one for Brittany to use pretty much. Whereas like the other ones, I still hope they can come back, but I do think that Diabolos members will kind of make a comeback, whether to fight again on the protagonist side or be antagonists again for a little bit, or a mixture of both. But anyway, other than that though, comment below, thumbs up the video, friendly like button, subscribe, and check out my other videos. But that, I appreciate it. Subscribe, and thank you all for listening.